Source One Saturday late night mashup. My name is Nico Lagan. My co-host, Jason Levine, and our guest this week, Chris Barber, Pastor Arthur Pawlowski, Chris Dacey from Dacey Media, Rob Ambrose, Chris Carbett, and Jason from Wiretap Media. What's going on, guys?
Lots are going on. Nice to see you, Nico. Thanks for Chris and Jason. 2 Chris's, 2 Jasons, and 1 Nico. That sounds like the beginning of a joke.
But I'm stuck in the middle too. Eh? Damn, guys! Before we get it started, nobody can introduce themselves better than themselves. So we're gonna do a quick round table. We'll start with Mr. Barber. You want to introduce who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
Well, I am Chris Barber, obviously, and I am under house arrest for the next 12 months because of the Freedom Convoy movement in Ottawa in February 2022. I am just a blue-collar Canadian truck driver, business owner, farm boy, really nothing special, just a loudmouth on social media. So here we are.
Excellent.
Yeah. Jason?
I remain...
Not you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the other Jason.
And you're like my wife now. Okay, got it.
Online degenerate and web sleuth, and that's about it. And we'll turn it over to Dacey.
Mr. Dacey.
Dude, that's a tough act to follow. I guess independent journalist, videographer, Chris Dacey, Dacey Media. I was a carpenter. COVID came, things changed, and I was in downtown Ottawa when Chris and the whole thing rolled in, and I just started filming stuff when everybody got kicked out of there, and it's kind of turned into this. So now I'm an independent journalist, a few thousand miles away from home in a field covering an ostrich standoff. So,
Mr. Levine.
I'm Jason Levine. I'm ruffling feathers here in Alberta instead of BC, but I like to do interviews. I like to hang out, have conversations, and talk to Canadians all over the place, coast to coast. I'm also running for council. So in a couple of days, I'm on the ballot. And I've been doing nothing but door knocking, meeting my neighbors the last couple of days. And I'm tired, but I'm enjoying all of it. And then we got Big Nico here.
Political commentator, agitator. I like to piss people off. I create content that others don't have the balls to. That's what I do, and that's what we're doing right now, right? So, Chris, Mr. Barber, I'm going to call you Mr. Barber, not because I want to call you Mr. Barber, because there's another Chris on the show, and there's a third one that's going to somehow join us at one point. So, Mr. Barber, indeed. So, I want to start with you, and I'm going to start a conversation with you, but the question applies to everybody on the panel. Were you surprised by your sentence?
Yeah, a little bit actually. We're kind of anticipating. My lawyers kind of prepped me for possibly 6 months of house arrest, and when she read off, 12 months and then 6 months curfew after that, I was a little surprised. But I mean, thankful we weren't going to jail. I guess the situation could have been a lot worse. But it's been a long ordeal. We've been in trial for just about 60 days, spanning over 2.5 years, just over 2 years. Our trial started in September of 2023 and just finished up to October 7th of 2025 here. So it's been a long road, but we're home. We were allowed to get home. Now I'm working with a really delicate task with my probation officer, trying to figure out my trucking schedule. So I'm able to work, but everything has to be planned out with the probation officer a week in advance. And that is becoming quite the difficult task right now, because I don't know what I'm doing day to day. So for me to pencil that out a week in advance is proving to be pretty hell.
So you're able to work, you're able to get out of the house, you're able to go on the road. You can't cross to the U.S., right?
I can actually. The judge stipulated that in the agreement there. So I'm able to travel wherever I want as long as I provide where I'm going and roughly the time. So as far as we know, mischief isn't one of those offenses that you can be returned from the border, but it's yet to be seen. If I meet a bad border guard that has a grudge on them, or a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, it could bode bad. But until that time comes, we'll just play it by ear.
And what's the consequences if you don't actually follow through? Like, let's say you're a couple hours late, or you run into traffic or some construction. What happens if that happens?
So this is what I've been told by my probation officer. Even if the RCMP show up at my farm at 2:00 in the morning, and I don't hear them, if I'm sound asleep and I don't answer that door, they will try to get a hold of me. And if not, then I'll breach, and I basically go to jail for the remainder of my sentence. So that would be, 18 months in total.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And we know how sticky they are, because we saw Tamara Leach get pulled back into jail for a photograph of Tom, even though the lawyers were there. So we know that they're probably waiting for a little slip up, because they still want to make an example out of you. I suspect the Crown is not just going to give up that easy, will they?
Well, we've got, what's the date now? I guess on Tuesday it'll be 2 weeks. So we have 30 days for the Crown to appeal, or 30 days for us to appeal. I kind of told myself I was going to come home and get a couple weeks at home and just kind of collect my thoughts and get some stuff done around home before I put any thought into that yet. Still have a lot of work to do and a lot of conversations to have with some legal counsel on what our next plan is. I mean, 12 months. I'm on a farm, so my nearest neighbor is my parents at a mile away. I have a shop, I have barns, I have animals, so I've got lots to do around here. It's not really hindering my ability. I just can't, jump in the truck and go to town for coffee or anything like that. Everything's got to be scheduled. I guess starting this week on Monday, I am allowed 3 hours leisure, and I'm allowed to choose those 3 hours at my will. And then the week after that, it grows by an hour. So it's up to 6 hours leisure per week that has to be scheduled. So go to a movie, go for supper, whatever I kind of feel like doing, I guess.
And you got that exception to clear snow for your parents, right? So that's going to be the entire winter. You have that exception.
Yeah, special provision granted. My parents are in their 70s right now, and their yard gets blown in pretty bad. So usually my procedure is to clean my yard out, get the trailer hooked up, load the skid steer on the trailer, take it up to my parents' yard, and clean their yard up. So the judge was nice enough that I can basically do that whenever I want, I guess. But we'll see once winter starts and see. We've got a lot of land around here, and I've given the probation officer all the land coordinates. So in case I'm fixing fence or doing any farming on any quarter, and she's added that to the profile, so I can pretty much free range around the farm here.
Wow. When you say added to the profile, are you wearing anything on your body for the GPS? Like, do you have a tracker of any kind?
No, there's no tracker involved with this. So it's just basically calling the probation officer right now once a week. And every 2 weeks, I have a check-in day where I drive to Swift Current and actually sit down with her and have a conversation with her. Well, I've attended the first one on Tuesday, and I'll call in on Monday, and then the next appointment is on the 27th. I have to actually be there.
There's going to be T-shirts that say Chris, the free-range barber, now that you said that. Nico, you had a question there?
Yeah, the thing that surprised me is that you have no gag order, that you're still capable of speaking online, because we've seen it up to now that was part of some of the people's sentence. And considering it doesn't sound like you won that place, but sorry, Chris, you are a voice of the freedom movement in Canada. Want it or not, that's the responsibility that I think you have now. But I'm surprised you had no gag order. So 2 questions for you. Were you surprised that they didn't stipulate that in your sentence? And are you planning on speaking even more, considering Bill C2, C8, C9, C12, and the new C63 that's going to be tabled anytime soon now?
Yeah, I've been probably a lot of trouble for my legal counsel for the last 2 years, because regardless of them telling me not to say something, I still say something. I am very vocal, and I have an opinion to speak, and I will speak that opinion regardless, I guess, of the ramifications. But I'm in house arrest right now because of my social media posting. It was because of what the Crown took off my cell phone and my social media that wound me up in the predicament I'm in right now. Going forward with that, we anticipate speaking even more. Tamara and I did the Prairie Rising Forum in Regina, Saskatchewan today. We were able to log in via Zoom and do that. I guess we just keep speaking the truth, and people are opening their eyes right now to what's going on in this country, and I think it's pretty evident when you come to the, Chris Daisy will speak to this in a little while when it comes to the ostrich farm and the amount of overreach is going on with that right now. I'll speak till I die, I guess, and if it lands me in jail, I guess, this is Canada right now, and it's a sad state when you actually have to worry about that, isn't it?
100%. Absolutely 100%. I can't believe that as somebody that does this every day, that's been doing it for 5 years, that does it in the state and Canada, it blows my mind that we're here, but it's a fact. But people need to wake the fuck up, though, because this is not a joke. You look at what's going on in the UK, the same type of laws are being passed here. and we're starting to hear about digital IDs. That scares the hell out of me, because once that's in, we're screwed. But I'd like to hear from Mr. Stockton and Chris Dacey. I don't know why I called you Chris Dacey, Mr. Dacey. I'll be respectful. I'll call everybody Mr. But I'd like to get your opinion. Mr. Dacey, were you surprised by Chris Barber's sentencing?
Surprised is maybe the wrong way. Like, I'm not a legal expert, but I've seen what they've tried to do to people. The fact that Chris hadn't spent jail time and didn't have some of the restrictions as other people, I was a little bit worried, honestly, Chris, that they would try to take a pound out of you, another pound. I'm not overly surprised. I do think it's long. I was figuring it would probably be a house arrest sentence of some sort. I mean, that's similar to Jay Vanderweer. Anyways, there's been a number of cases, and a lot of them were that sort of house arrest thing. So I wasn't overly surprised, but I still was a bit surprised at the length. Maybe just, I have Chris here. I was at most of the trial. Right Blend, me and Jonathan Villeneuve at Right Blend here on X did incredible coverage from inside the courtroom. Like, unbelievable. Basically, everyone is relying on his stuff, even the mainstream. So that was awesome, and I kind of did the stuff outside. But I was along for a lot of the journey, so I was really torn whether or not I should come out here to Universal Ostrich Farms. On a personal level, I wanted to be there at the end too to see what happened with you, Chris. But this calls and what's going on here is absolutely insane. Maybe we get into that in a bit, but yeah, I guess I'll leave it there as the RCMP drive by me.
We totally missed you too in Ottawa on the 7th there, Chris, because it was chaotic outside the courtroom after when we were leaving there. The media was very aggressive. OPS had to actually intervene and hold some reporters back, believe it or not. It got a little contentious.
Well, I did see some of that, and I mean, normally it does get pretty contentious, and those guys rush in. We're there all the time, but those guys only show up when they have something they think they can get, the big story or a conviction, whatever. But I did see Right Plan too, and some video come out, man, and he put them in their place pretty good. I'll find that video, maybe reshare it. But that's common. Like, those guys are so entitled out there. They'll come in and they'll push and they'll shove, and if any of us did anything like that, we'd be looking at in the same place Chris is.
Well, you've seen it actually when OPS grabbed a reporter by the back of the jacket, and the reporter turned around to almost swing at the police, and then realized that oh shit, I'm in the wrong, I'm in the bad here, and then got drug off. So it was wild. My father was behind me coming out of the courtroom, and I kind of instinctively stopped and looked back to see where he was. That was enough of a time gap to get Tamara about 15-20 feet in front of me. And that they focused on her when they walked out the door, and I just kind of walked in like without any issues into the car door before they realized I was even there. So
that scene with Tamara entering, I did see that one too, and I've been close to a few of those, and some crazy ones, like maybe when she got out of jail initially, but that one was wild. It looked like, I don't know if it's the BFRAP guys or what it was, but it's like a lineup of guys going in, people swarming in. I saw one, the guy with the long hair getting tossed. There was some wild stuff going on there, man. And I'm used to crazy. I kind of wish I would have been there for that too, honestly. But I've had lots of crazy here as well.
I bet.
Yeah.
Jason, what are you thinking? Stockton.
Well, the sentence was nonsense. It's absolute bullshit. But at the same time, I'm not surprised. Personally, I thought they were going to get it worse. Like, we got a crime syndicate running this country, right? So they're doing everything they can to shut down dissent or people that have opposing opinions. It seems like we keep pushing further and further to the left, and there's like this shuffle that's pushing us towards this like technocratic communist state, and it's just unfortunate. But at the same time, I'm grateful that we do have people like Chris and Tamara that, even Chris Dacey, these guys that put their necks on the line. I'm just grateful for people like that are standing up for us, and thanks. So that's what I have to say to that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I don't want to put you on the spot, Chris Barber, but I gotta ask because I talk against this man literally every single day, but were you surprised by Pierre Poilievre's response that he wasn't more, that the Conservatives as a whole, as a party, weren't more involved to try to be in your favor in Tamara Lynch and your favor? Because to be honest with you, that was a 90-10 issue. There's nobody on the Conservative side that were against you guys. We all supported you from the get-go. And let's be honest, Pierre Poilievre became the leader because he supported the Freedom Convoy at the end when it was safe to support it. So a question for you, and feel free not to answer it. I don't know you. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'd like to know your opinion, because if I was in your place, I would have lost my shit. But you seem to be a lot more controlled than I am.
And it's a good point, and I did take note of that. I know Pierre was out supporting us, and I know a lot of the Conservative MPs were walking through the protests in Ottawa in February 2022 and showing support. But you got to remember the way that the government, the Liberals, the message to the media to demonize us and paint us as bad of a brush as you possibly could. I mean, the Nazis and the white supremacists, all the stereotypes that they used against us. And I think the Conservatives' message at that time was to, like, let's just keep our distance and not say anything. And yeah, it pissed a lot of people off. It pissed me off too. But I'll tell you a little story about the way home. Driving through Sudbury, my phone rang in the car on the way home, and it was a private number, and I answered it, of course, because sometimes you get trolls that call you on private numbers and you get to have a little bit of fun. But it was a voice on the other end saying, "Hey, this is Pierre calling, and I got your number from somebody else, and I just thought I'd call you and say how sorry I am, and wanted to know the details on the Big Red forfeiture." And then we actually, after that phone call, we started seeing a lot of the Conservative MPs started making social media posts in support of us going forward. So I think it was a combination of, media messaging through the government that scared the shit out of a lot of people, because they didn't really know who we were at that time, right? We could have been, horrible people coming to Ottawa to protest mandates. So it was a tough cookie, and I did know it.
Now, with your sentencing as part of that decision, the house arrest sucked, but some of the things that the judge said was you were peaceful, you didn't resist arrest, you moved your truck when you were asked. She actually highlighted a bunch of the things that the counter narrative didn't touch during this entire thing. So was that helpful to you to hear from the judge as part of her sentencing decision that she recognized that you were a peaceful protest?
Yeah, it was nice to hear, because in her sentencing, when she started off by saying the protest was peaceful. We were peaceful in nature. We worked with law enforcement. We encouraged people to be peaceful. We encouraged people to work with law enforcement. She basically gave us this big, long statement of how we did everything to the perfect standard. And then 12 months house arrest. So she kind of built this up, and I was kind of thinking to myself, and of course you're standing, right? You're the only one standing in the courtroom when she's reading the sentence off. So you're trying to focus on her words. Of course you're nervous. It was a day. It was really a day. I think it took me, basically a week afterwards just to kind of, because things have been so high paced for how many years now. And all of a sudden you come home and you're like, is it done? And you can catch your breath.
Some of the numbers we've heard is somewhere north of $20 million billed for the prosecution of all of this. And I think that's quite ridiculous at the end of the day, when it's down to mischief, peaceful, even a judge agrees on that. But it did seem like she needed to set some sort of deterrent for the future. Anybody that steps up and says, hey, let's go and counter narrative the government and ask for answers, this is what you can expect. You can now expect a house arrest if you're going to be a leader of some sort. If you're Chris Carbert and you fall asleep with firearms, you could be in prison. And if you're Arthur Pawlowski and you go into a saloon and you tell people to stay peaceful but stand up for your rights, you can also find yourself in solitary confinement. And we have both of those guys join on a second hour, because I want to kind of get their perspective as they heard your sentencing as well. But do you think this is a message from the judge and from the system? Don't counter the federal government.
It was hard to say whether, I felt the mood of the judge change after the election. I kind of thought that she was on our side up until the election. And then when the Liberals got back in, I kind of sensed, even though my legal counsel said, no, you're reading into that. But I felt what I felt there. And I believe, it's a deterrent. And I think that people should be really scared going forward with this, because the case law is now set. Like, part of the evidence they used against us to find us guilty was Coots, like Arthur Pawlowski's speech. I know they mentioned that multiple times in there. My social media posts, it was simple as me looking at an intersection in Ottawa and saying that intersection looks lonely. The fact that we were, as the judge even said, we were rock stars in Ottawa. Didn't really feel like that was the case, but it is what it is. And I think people should be a little bit nervous going forward with this, because the case law is set now, and even goes to, for the forfeiture on Big Red, the way the government's trying to take it right now. That's unheard of. Never in Canadian history has the government trying to forfeit a piece of equipment that was allegedly used in the act of a crime in a different province. I'm in Saskatchewan now, they're in Ontario. They've never done that before, and especially 4 years after the fact. So it's still going on right now. I need people to wake up to this.
Well, the process is the punishment. You got 2 more weeks to find out if there's going to be an appeal by the Crown on this one. Are you expecting that? I know you're not asking for one, but are you expecting one? Because they did appeal other people's convictions. And this particular judge, Perkins McVeigh, she actually acquitted one of the people of the convoy for bringing fuel via a wagon. But then there was an appeal on that, and it was overturned. And this is one of the things judges hate, is when their judgments are overturned. And that also happened during your trial, that overturn appeal. Maybe that was part of what you were sensing of a shift of her, because she had her hand slapped by the system, and one of her judgments were overturned during your trial.
And that was Rembley, or was it Rembley? Yeah. And then the second appeals judge, I want people to know, was a liberal appointed judge as well too in Ottawa. So that appeals judge that found him guilty of mischief was literally appointed by and is good friends with Justin Trudeau. So I don't know what to expect where they're going to appeal it. I've seen so much vengeance from that Crown's office, and we know that. During the forfeiture order, we were able to get out of the officer that was testifying that the forfeiture came down from the Attorney General's office in Toronto, so directly directed by Doug Ford. So there's a lot behind the scenes. I'm thankful I'm back in my home province of Saskatchewan, and Big Red's safe in the shop, and we've got some good legal counsel working on this one. But I mean, it's a legal battle, and my parents have a vested interest in the truck. My son has an interest in the truck, and so does my company. So we've hired a lawyer, Brendan Miller, to come and represent us in Ottawa.
Miller time.
He stirred the pot, but that pot is adding up a lot really fast.
Let's go, Brendan, for sure. Yeah, he's covering a lot of things. He's even Tony Olenick's lawyer now too, as they're working through those appeals of the sentence and the conviction. So Brendan's getting a lot of work done. So good to hear these on your side on this one as well. Is that through the JCCF that you got Brendan working with you?
No, the JCCF is covering my lawyer, Diane Magus, for representing me on the forfeiture in Ottawa. But we've actually hired Brendan privately, so that's costing us. So that's not going through the JCCF on that one. That's right out of our pockets.
Oh wow. I'm not sure if you're looking for any support on that, but if you are, just let us know. We'll do what we can.
Oh, right now, one of the things that Brendan's doing is he's laying the casework out to the Crown right now for costs. So if the Crown loses this application, then we will then sue the Crown for costs to try and recover. And so we're just putting the money out right now and hoping for the best at the end. He's trying to give the Crown outs as we go, so I just drop the case and we'll walk away from this. But, so far they're doubling down.
There's only 2 times that I've seen them do that. Once is for Chris Carbert. They dropped the appeal, so they weren't going to appeal a sentence anymore. And one of the people charged in Coots, Jacqueline Martin, they dropped her prosecution when it was actually exposed on the stand that they had wrong information about her, the RCMP or somebody lied. So it was kind of exposed during the Carbert Olenick trial that somebody lied, whether it was Crown or RCMP, and then they dropped the charges. That's it, though. Everybody else, I've seen them just go all the way through. Daisy, now you were there. You've met Chris. You've seen him privately. You've seen him go through this entire thing. What was the emotions like for you as he's kind of coming to an end with this trial?
Yeah, I mean, I guess on a personal level, I'm kind of emotionally connected to a lot of this stuff, from the very start. I didn't know Chris at the start, but I've gotten to know Chris quite well throughout. I was certainly emotionally invested. I had the reaction here, as news broke, I got a call. I got actually a message from in the courtroom from someone that's been supporting the whole time. And I was kind of right in the mess tent area. And so I was excited, Chris wasn't going to jail. So my initial reaction was elation. And then I started thinking about it a little more. And Jonathan started sending me the details and that changed a little bit. And I kind of started thinking about how ridiculous it actually was. But I mean, a lot of that for me is thinking back over what's happened at not only at the convoy, but me being from Ottawa. Like there's been a never ending kind of continuation. At least like the police are different. I get treated differently. I watch and cover protests. I watch anti-government, certain types of anti-government protesters get treated completely different than others. So all of this stuff is kind of ongoing and frustrating to me. So I mean, I'm tied into it in a weirdly personal level, and on kind of multiple levels and time frames.
And Jason, as you're watching this unfold, you're seeing things like precedents being set, weaponization of mischief, and there's going to be a real big damper on a couple things. Fundraising when it comes to helping Canadians, because went after the fundraisers too and kind of outed them and doxed them. And also anybody that stands up against the government narrative is going to be more difficult to kind of get people together on that because of the precedents being set. They're here in Alberta and also over there in Ontario. Are you concerned about the future of the charter, your charter rights, freedom of expression, assembly, those kind of things?
Well, yeah, I think that's a simple yeah, but at the same time, I think they're making it impossible for us to hide anyways. So the next time this happens, I think we just have to give them, or we just have to go full force and not worry about the consequences. That's just my opinion, because we're at the point now, we're at a precipice right now where we're pushing so far to the left that we have to fight. And you could have revolution without violence. There could be peaceful revolution, right? And that's why they did what they did with the convoy, because it really did reflect all the elements of a colored revolution, where more and more people were catching on, more and more people were buying into the system. And I just want to touch on something Chris was saying, and I think we talked about this before, Jay, is like we have to come up with another word for anti-government, right? I'm not I'm not anti-government. I know as a societal feature we need government to survive, right? But I'm against what's happening with this government, and that's on both sides of the aisle. Like, I don't like how I appreciate Chris's political response, or his businessman response. It was very respectful, but I think they're fucking cowards. That's my personal opinion. I think that these guys should have been standing up for us. That's their job. They are the opposition. They're not supposed to be playing into the media or worrying about, how they're going to look in the press. How you look is to your constituents. And when you don't talk about the hard things, the important things like mass immigration, Chris and Tamara, what Chris Stacey's covering here, you show so much weakness, and then you push people either out of the political spectrum and they don't want to vote at all, or they move over to the PPC, or that's just what happens. So yeah, I think there's massive ramifications, but at the same time, I think we have to stop worrying about the consequences, because as we've seen, they're trying to weaponize it, and we have to fight against it. And if that's at any means necessary at this point. That's my perspective, but doesn't mean it's right.
So Barber, if you had
hold on, Jason. I just want to go back to what thanks, Chris Barber, for answering the question earlier. But unfortunately, your story, Pierre Poilievre calling behind a hidden phone number after the fact, behind the scene, I've heard that story many, many, many times before. And that's what bothers me the most. I'm a conservative, small C conservative. And what you're saying bothers the hell out of me, because he's not a leader. Somebody that doesn't have the balls to stand up for our rights doesn't belong as a party leader, especially not the opposition. And I'm gonna air quote this, the opposition. So I appreciate your answer. Don't think that I'm downplaying what you're saying, but at the same time, I know some of the biggest content creators in North America, and funny enough, all the people in Canada don't talk to me anymore on the conservative side since the election, because I've been calling out Pierre Poilievre day in and day out for not being conservative enough, for having his balls in his wife's purse. I've been saying this for months now. And unfortunately, and I feel bad for you that there's no leaders that actually stood up for you, and I really, really feel bad for you because he made a name off of yours, off of what's going on, didn't even have the balls to stand up for you. It pisses the fuck out of me, man.
Well, and I think too, if you look back to COVID times, if we had a leader, if the opposition was a little more vocal when you had that many people in Canada losing their jobs, committing suicide, alcohol, drug abuse, there was so many factors that were going to a public light that led to the catalyst for Freedom Convoy to happen, and the government basically ignored us, and they continue to ignore us for the most part.
Yeah.
Now, if you had a time machine and you can go back knowing what you know now, would you have changed anything?
Probably my language on social media. I look back at circumstances and could I have done anything different? I was led into Ottawa in February 2022, or in January, sorry, at the end of January. I was led in by police. I was parked on the street. I'm going to have to take my hat off and beat the living shit out of this fly because it's pissing me off. But when the police asked me 7 days later to take the truck out of downtown, I listened. I didn't take it out on the day that they asked me to because there was like 500,000 people in the downtown core of Ottawa that day. I listened to Ottawa. I listened to the city. I listened to police. I listened to protesters. I tried to be that mediator between protesters and police. All we wanted was a bloody conversation with our sitting government as to why people were losing their jobs for no reason. And they continue to ignore us. And there's no ramifications that have ever come to the federal government for their actions that led to the catalyst for the Freedom Convoy. And I think I'll just stand, we're on the right side of history here right now. And so what, we're being, politically persecuted right now, but somebody's got to be the martyr, I guess. And I guess I'll be the martyr with Tamara Leach. And there's a lot of others out there that are going through the same thing. And we never want to not mention those names.
Feel guilty for nothing.
Yeah.
That's, just treat it like it is. That's what I say. Fuck these guys.
And that fly too. Let's get to that fly too. There we go. You get it?
Yeah.
Nice. That might even cease. They got some new tech, Chris, so maybe they're just on to you there. Going forward, what I want to hope the Canadians hear about this is don't give up. Like, maybe different language. Okay, I get you on that one. And maybe you'll listen a little bit differently, whatever. But I don't think that was enough for a 4-year-long trial, $20 million spent, a year house arrest. In fact, one of the insults from this one, Chris, and I think you might agree with me, is they gave Tamara time served at the end of the sentence, not at the beginning of the sentence. The first 74 days of her sentence should be wiped away, and she shouldn't have a full 12 months house arrest. She should have some credit at the beginning of her sentence because she was actually in jail for this, not when it's the curfew time at the end. What are your thoughts on that? Because do you think maybe she should have had less house arrest because she had time served?
Well, she did, she had the breach in there. So she did 20 days in jail. She did, almost 30 days in another stint because of a breach. And the Crown, for that classic photo in the lawyer room there where she didn't do anything wrong, and the Crown dropped that breach, and it just goes away. And Tamara spent 30 days of her life, and in some of those conditions issues in solitary confinement, she didn't deserve to get the same sentence that I did. I at least had a truck there, even though I was listening to law enforcement. She didn't have a truck. She didn't have a horn. She was just a Canadian standing there trying to educate people and make people see the light or encourage people to come and peacefully protest. Remember, that was the main goal back in that day. And she got basically the blunt end of the stick as far as I'm concerned. Now her conditions are the same as mine, but she lives in the city of Medicine Hat, so she's stuck on her property. She can't even walk her dog, and she feels quite secluded. I've spoke with her a number of times. If I can plug this just quickly, seeing as I'm on the show right now, we've started our new little podcast on Thursday nights on Facebook. It's going to be streaming on YouTube and anywhere social media is. It's called House Arrest with Tamara and Chris. And this week's episode, we're actually talking about having the Honorable Brian Peckford on our show to have a conversation about the charter. Like, how could you get any better than that? So sorry for the plug, guys. I had to try and get that in there.
No way.
It's a great name, man.
Exciting to hear that you have
That's
that.
a
So
great
I hope that
name.
continues even after the house arrest. Keep calling it house arrest. Don't let anybody forget about what you gave up for this.
100%.
That's awesome. So you said Thursdays, Facebook. What time is it at?
We're roughly 6 o'clock. We're still putting the details together. We had a really, really good show. We did our first show on Thursday last week. Tom Marazzo was there. Jenny Bulford joined, Eva Chipiak for a little while. And we just sat around and talked about things, just like what we're doing right now. It was a really good night, and we got some truths out there. We reached a lot of people, which was really surprising for the first show. I think there's an appetite for that right now, and I can't wait to just kind of see how this flowers going forward.
Yeah, Tom sends his apologies because he's at the Alberta, the Prairie Rising right now, and he's like he wouldn't be able to make it tonight. So we did invite him. He wanted to come on, but he's going to be at the Prairie Rising tonight, and I'm excited. Eva's awesome. You'll probably get Keith on there at some point. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So, Honorable Brian Peckford. Now, did you know that he came to Alberta to become an expert witness about a charter issue, and the Alberta judge threw him out as somebody who wasn't an expert with the charter?
Oh, wow. Did you know in Ottawa during our trial, Crown Prosecutor didn't know who Brian Peckford was?
Wow.
Were you there?
He knows all day long, because there's a lot of craziness with judicial notice and other things that they're using to kind of keep things out. But it is crazy. But yeah, the judge said that Peckford, he doesn't know the modern version and interpretations, therefore he didn't really apply. And this was during the Ingram decision, which went our way, but Section 1 was upheld, and that's what he was there as an expert for. So it's pretty crazy that the guy who signed the document, wrote it, isn't an expert according to the Canadian judges.
You know, that was probably one of my proudest moments. That was standing with the vets in Ottawa in February 2022. You know, the other proudest moment was standing with Brian Peckford. He flew in with his wife, Carol, and he stood on the stage. You're going to have to deal with Zippy barking. Obviously, somebody's driving by the house right now.
Don't kill her.
Yeah, just letting everybody know. You know, Brian's an honorable man, and he's been through the ringer, and he is still huge 100% behind us now in this whole movement. So I'm going to have to go shut him up.
No worries.
Chris,
no worries. Be kind.
what's your
Nico?
what's the channel on YouTube? Because people are asking, they want to subscribe. So do you know what it is? Because I'm trying to find House Arrest, but I can't find it.
House Arrest? Yeah, Tamara actually just set the account up today. I'm gonna zip. Hey, stop. Tamara just set it up. I think I shared the link on my Facebook page, so I'll just grab that right now while we're talking.
Yeah, because I'll drop it in the comments.
Or put it in the comments, or put it in the chat. We'll get it to the comments, because everybody's going to subscribe to that. That's going to be what everybody does Thursday nights now. So, Daisy, another thing that I liked about Chris is Bikers Church. So we have lots of mutual friends there. Melissa McKee and Rob McKee, and it's basically a good home there. Found the channel. Okay, good. Awesome. And was that Melissa that you were talking about that was in the courtroom providing some information to you?
Not this time, but Melissa has been there lots of times. And yeah, I mean, the family at Bikers Church is literally God sent to me. So it's a great community there, Jason. I know you've been in, and yeah, no, it wasn't Melissa this time, but she is a big supporter of, I mean, any of these people that have found themselves in jail. Melissa has a heart for helping almost anyone, really.
Could you give us an update on what's going on there in BC? Have the ostriches started honking, and is there any diesel smell? Because that could really make things bad for them.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few generators going. If you hear the hum in the background, if you noticed, I'm a little like looking back and forth. It's because there's RCMP vehicles patrolling this area around me. Like the area in front of me, literally, I mean, not even 50 feet in front of me in the truck here. There's a big blue fence and police tape. And the whole area behind that has been taken over and seized by the CFIA. And the RCMP have been a little ornery around here the last few days. People are not happy. There's a property here. Actually, this is something interesting that maybe a lot of people wouldn't know about as much about the farm. Attached to this farm, there's another property. It's kind of a triangle property, and it was also seized, but it wasn't part of the quarantine. It was seized much later when the RCMP came in and took over the area. It was basically seized for a strategic purpose. They need to get in and out of there. They want to block access, and they wanted to build roads through this person's farm, like hayfield, basically. But the family here still lives there in the house. So they've been having to get access. So they got to check in at this RCMP checkpoint right over here. And it's a real scene. Like, you check through the checkpoint, you got to go through the woods. The area is surrounded by armed RCMP officers. And there's been a number of incidents now with this family. And specifically, Ali posted some videos. Ali, the garlic girl, she's here beside me actually. But there's been some issues with her trying to get in, and like to watch this happen, man. Like, it's so dystopian when you talk about
out of control government. You know, we have people from the CFIA here, unelected bureaucrats. You know, they're running on policy, and the things that I'm seeing, and this particularly the resources from the RCMP, it's so dystopian. Even the video and me explaining it can't possibly describe it. It doesn't register how crazy all of this is. And then the additional fact that the neighbor's property is seized, and they're basically toying with it. You know, they're torturing the people coming in and out of their gates. They're turning on music at night, shining giant lights on people. It's absolutely crazy.
One of the videos I remember from the convoy was Jim Kerr on top of the bubble bus, and then they harassed him too, and the police came and harassed him. Now, Jim Kerr went out there, and he's been recently arrested. Has he been released at this stage? And can you maybe update us on what happened with his arrest?
Yeah, Jim. Yeah. So yeah, he was arrested. I guess that was yesterday, 2 days ago now.
2 days ago, yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. Okay. Yeah, and the time goes crazy around here. And he was arrested for. They say that he breached the quarantine line or the warranted zone. For anyone that may have seen the video, I believe Rebel put it out. There's a blue fence, and then in behind the blue fence, there's caution tape. And Jim in this video is in between there, and he's trying to push food into these ostriches. Which there's been a lot of active speculation, maybe we'll say, that these birds aren't being properly fed. The CFI agents don't seem to have any clue what they're doing about it. About how to take care of ostriches or to feed them or any such thing. And people had been, at least up until recently, had been allowed to throw or feed the birds over the fence line here. So, yeah, I mean, at first I thought it was like, okay, I didn't know exactly what happened. Maybe across. When I saw the video and he's trying to feed the ostriches, and then they come in here and drag him out in handcuffs. And I don't even know, man. But he did get out. He is now, though, very much like in Ottawa, he's been slapped with a bunch of restrictions, and he's not allowed anywhere near this area, or even really to travel through. There's one highway coming in and out. He can't even really travel on that, so he kind of had to get out, and that's it.
Just like Ottawa, go after loudest voice, and bury them in lawfare.
Yeah, 100%. So what they're doing is effectively, they'll get you on any charge, and sometimes the charges don't even stick later. But along with it, they'll tell you, right? And they try to pressure you, thinking you'll be in jail. So they'll tell you, sign these conditions and we'll release you. Otherwise, we'll hold you and you have to see a JP. And, people, I guess, have to make that decision for themselves. You could see the JP and still end up with conditions. But if you sign right away, what they're able to do is slap these conditions on you where they effectively take away your ability to freely travel. But in Ottawa in particular, well, same here, your ability to protest, to lawfully and legally protest. Without a conviction or a crime, I mean, a mere accusation even, right?
Yeah, no, Nika, we saw something similar in Ottawa where they were giving people tickets and forcing them to move, I think it was like 500 meters from a certain line. And what Jim was doing is he was exposing them, and he had quite the following, and a lot of people were watching his videos. So I'm curious if this is kind of maybe the real reason why they went after him like this, is just to remove him from the situation and stop the embarrassment.
Well, I mean, removing Jim. Oh, sorry, Ron.
No, Chris, it's, yes, the answer's simple. Look at what they did to Chris Barber. Look at what they did to Tamara Lich. They're crushing dissent. That's all they're doing. If you have an audience and you're ready to share, they're going to crush you too. That's why I'm surprised, AC, by the way, bro. I'm surprised you haven't been in trouble yet. Because I'm sorry. I'm knocking on wood, bro. But
don't not even. I'm surrounded by RCMP, man, and I'm a little squirrely about it. I saw those guys pop smoke and come through with their big sticks and beat people and whatnot. It's a weird mix of emotions, man.
So, Barber, what are your thoughts about what is happening over in BC? I know you've been pretty busy the last few weeks, but I'm sure you've been keeping a little bit up to date on what Daisy's been reporting and John's been reporting. What are your thoughts about what's going on in BC?
It enrages me, and I think I've been pretty blunt on my social media when I can. If it wasn't for our sentence, I probably would be on my way out to BC or be out there by now. But that kind of messed things up. I've seen this similar circumstances between Freedom Convoy and BC right now. I can't believe the amount of law enforcement that are. There's children missing in British Columbia. There's murders that are unsolved out in British Columbia right now. And how many officers do you have on the ground at an ostrich farm? If this shouldn't wake people up to what the hell's going on in this country, I don't know what will.
Well, I'm sure between Daisy and myself, we can get you connected to Katie, and maybe she can join you on one of your Thursdays and have a conversation. Because Leach went out there. Yeah.
I have Katie's number. I talk to her every now and then.
Oh,
So
perfect. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask Chris, because that was a question. Because I'm saying everything that's going on from the bills they're trying to pass, like the C2, C8, C9, C12, C63, how you're sentencing, what they're doing in BC is all interconnected. Like, we have to stop seeing it as different events. It's all the same government pushing their pawns in all different directions. But is that what you see too? Because I'm looking at the gun grab at the same time. And, I came to the conclusion not too long ago that I'm a gun owner. I'm a big self-defense advocate, but it's not just about self-defense. Like, how do you hunt if you don't have firearms? How do you take care of your farm as a farmer? How do you take care of of the unwanted animals if you can't shoot them? So do you think that this is all related, what's going on in BC, your case, the gun grab right now?
well, it's for sure that the Liberals have enough power using the Bloc or the NDP to get what they want in the House. They're coming for our guns. I don't think that's inevitable. Look at Britain, look at Australia, look at the foreign countries right now. I just actually had a visit from somebody from the UK that stopped for a couple days and just spent a little bit of time with me, and he said that do you have a do you have a gun? I've never shot a gun. And I'm like, you've never shot a gun before? And then the other thing I'll say to that too is there's times when I'll walk out on the deck at 2:00 in the morning and I've got a coyote in my front yard trying to attack my dogs. I'm not going to beat that off with a baseball bat. There's certain circumstances out here. I can see maybe if you're in a city, that level of control could be a little bit different. But when you're in rural, Saskatchewan, Canada, you need something like that, and not. We have definitely, an animal that needs to be put down. You're not calling the RCMP out to put your, dog down when that day comes. You're going to take care of it yourself. So responsible gun owners are not the problem in this country right now. It's the criminals, and they're going after the wrong people.
Well, plant a seed in your mind there. Maybe there's a house arrest stock sometime next summer, because you have to stay at home, but maybe you can have some more visitors over and we can come say hi to you. I know your time is limited, Chris, so jump off any time. But was there anything else you wanted to let Canadians know about your situation and maybe what to watch out for if they're going to stand up against this government?
I guess the one thing that we haven't spoke about yet is the fact that there's still a $300 million lawsuit against the Freedom Convoy lawyers right now via Paul Champ, downtown Ottawa lawyer, and his lead plaintiff, Zexi Lee. People should be a little bit nervous about that. That's going forward in the courts. I think they're looking for certification in June or July of 2026. We're supposed to have some affidavits in here filed. I think I have a legal meeting on Tuesday via Zoom for that. $300 million, people. And Paul Champ has a ton of empty names, John Doe names on the docket for the donor class. So if you donated to Freedom Convoy, whether you donated $25 or $1,000, your name could potentially be added to that list via Paul Champ's lawsuit in downtown Ottawa. So it is, it's not over by a long run. We have the forfeiture on the truck. We got the lawsuits. We got the threat of an appeal. We could appeal. There's a lot going on right now. I just appreciate all the support. I want to make sure everybody knows that. I have said this many times in the past. I'll say it again. It'd be a lonely ass courtroom if it wasn't for so many people standing behind us in this country right now, following the story, sharing the story, and keeping attention to it. So I appreciate that greatly. So does Tamara.
Fantastic. And the next court appearance for you will be November for the truck seizure. You'll be doing it via Zoom. Do you have a date for that one yet? Because Nico and I, we now can cover the court in Ontario, so we're going to make sure we do that.
Yeah, November 26th is the next forfeiture hearing for the truck. So what we're needing right now is the judge to clarify and make a couple rulings on, the jurisdiction issue, whether they can forfeit something out of a different province. And there's some, it's critical right now, people. This is case law that they're setting right now, and they've already set it. So be prepared, because if it's not me or Tamara or anyone else now, it'll be somebody else tomorrow. So.
Well, we have Pastor Art who just joined us, and maybe he has a couple words for you as well, because I know he's been following your case as well. And as we have a moment or two with you there, Chris, maybe Pastor Art wants to say something here.
Sure. Hey, Art.
Hi. Good to see you, Chris, and others. Of course, we have been following your story, and kudos to you for standing up and fighting. And you're absolutely right. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. And I said this so many times that first they came for us, be sure of it, they will come for you as well. It's just a matter of when. I mean, that's why I love to teach history, because what we are witnessing right now is a simple repetition of history. So I really want to say thank you for what you have done, for what you're doing, and for what you are going to be doing still. Because, like I said, the fight is not over. We have to keep plowing, we have to keep fighting. And we're not doing this just for ourselves, right? We're doing this for our children, for their children, for the future generation. That's why the fight is so critical, so important. So from my end, from our church, from our family, I just want to say thank you for what you have been willing to endure.
I greatly appreciated there. Funny you talk about world history. I wasn't feeling too good yesterday. I don't know what it was. It just felt really, really bad. So my son came out and we sat on the couch in the living room and we watched World War II in history. And we learned a little bit about the stuff that we're going to be reliving here shortly, unless we correct things. So I appreciate it, Art. It's been a pleasure standing with you. And I know you had a big deal to do with Coots, and we were all following that. And yeah, we've all been in this fight for quite some time. It feels good to see your face again.
Yeah, well, my fight is continuing. It's not over. I am in court again on the 27th. I was just there 2 weeks ago. So the tactic is the same. The same thing they have been doing to all of us is the process becomes the punishment. They know that people, little people, put it this way, absolutely cannot afford this fight. And they rely on this. They have, in other hand, they have unlimited resources. They can do whatever they want, and it's called law. And I just want you to understand something, and I know that many of you that are watching this do, that everything that Adolf Hitler did was within the guidelines of their law, right? So it was legal according to those people. They've crafted the laws. They threatened or bribed so-called law enforcement agencies. I mean, that's where the Gestapo comes from. That's why I call those people that invaded our church with their proper pronouns, Gestapo and Nazis, when they broke the Criminal Code of Canada. And that's exactly what we are witnessing right now. Those judges are crooks. And I'm not afraid to say it. They don't even follow their own laws. They don't follow their own guidelines. They make stuff up as they go, including the judge that sentenced you and Tamara. I mean, she's a crook. Those are crooks. Those are not real lawyers. They are manipulators. They're liars. They are not willing to follow their own rules and regulations and guidelines. And the same thing happened to me. But this is a repetition of history. Nazis did it. I grew up under the boots of the communism. They did it. Every tyrant did always the same thing. Use their power, their muscle, their pistols against the people that they wanted to subdue and control. And that's what we're observing right now.
I make reference to that quite in my social media posts too. I say that we're living in, pre-Nazi 1930s, Germany times right now where media was controlled by government and messaging. I mean, you look back and Adolf Hitler, had radios installed in people's houses so he could get the propaganda directly to the people. That was what happened. And that's what's happening now when you're funding legacy media into telling these stories that they're telling.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, we're probably blowing the RCP and CSIS's mind right now because Chris Carver joined us as well. So we got Barber, Carver, Pawlowski. Chris, welcome to the show. And Barber's coming into the end of his time here, but I wanted you guys to meet each other and say hi. So how are you doing, Chris?
Chris.
How's everybody doing tonight?
We're doing good. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, I can't complain. Just sitting in the basement of my mother's house as I'm directed by the courts. Not really want to be, but hey, I'm here. I'm not in jail.
Yeah, Barber knows all that. Barber, have you met Carver before?
I never have. No. I've met a couple of the boys out there, but Tony, as we know, is still locked up right now, right? I haven't heard any updates on him. I know that he's got some legal counsel there, mutual friends being the lawyer, so I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah, it's sounding like he's going to go for bail. Because obviously we are still waiting the decision on our appeal, which I feel went well. I hope it went well. So yeah, hopefully Tony's out soon too, because he deserves to get out. 3.5 years is a long time.
Well, we've been definitely thinking about you. You guys have been heavy on our minds for, all four of you, well, and the others involved too. So that was probably the hardest thing, is knowing that there was people just kind of thrown away and locked up. And some of the stories I'm sure you guys can tell about the remand centers, and we've heard most of the stories, but it's despicable.
Yeah, it's, I mean, everything happens for a reason, I think, guys. The Lord has his hands in on this, and I think there's going to be a lot of good that comes out of this in the end, because I don't know that they can continue to hide the truth, right? And I would like to talk a lot more about things, but I'm still in the middle of an appeal, and I think it's best just left talking about the sentence.
Fair enough. And you've been doing a lot of work back into your life. You're working now. You're doing some things there. Your mom, she went on vacation, I think, to Utah, so you got the house to yourself. But Chris, it's actually quite an honor to have you both on the show right now, and then Arthur Pawlowski as well, because we've all been watching you all from afar, basically becoming martyrs and sacrificing yourself for the good and health of Canada. And I love what Carver said there. It's not over. There may be some good things that come out of this. So Barber, you can leave anytime, or you stick around. You're absolutely welcome. But do you think there will be some good that comes out of this as well? Do you think some Canadians will wake up and maybe we'll have some good appeals and some good decisions in the future?
I think we're waking more people up as we go every day. People are looking at the situation and saying that this isn't right. And I know a lot of people. I've met a lot of people, from the other side of the hallway there that have been completely 100% against us. I've received messages from people on social media, and some of those messages have been, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I doubted you guys, and I see it now. So it just comes down to having conversation with people, and even if you don't agree, and you don't have to be best friends, but try and find a way to meet in the middle and just have that conversation that desperately needs to happen. Because I think, like Charlie Kirk said, right?
Yes, absolutely. For sure.
We have to learn how to agree to disagree again, right? I mean, we shouldn't hate each other because we don't think the same. It's messed up, and it's got to stop. It's the only way we're going to progress as a society.
100%.
I couldn't agree with you more, Chris. I as a Christian conservative, I record with a liberal 5 times a week for 1 to 2 hours a live. So this is the way to do it. We need to be able to open the door, bridge the gap, but because it's not left versus right, it's top versus bottom. Let's be honest.
That's right. That's right.
But I want to kind of build on something Chris Barber said, because I follow the bills that are being pushed by the Liberals right now. I always have John Carpe from the JCCF doing deep dives on all of those bills. And one thing that surprised me is that Bill C2 has been retabled in a different version as Bill C12. We've did a deep dive on both, and they actually remove most of the stuff outside of one thing from Bill C2 to Bill C12. So question for you, for the panel, are you surprised? Because this comes from a pushback, right? It's 300 civil organization has reached out to the government saying, yeah, no, this is unacceptable. What you're trying to do is not right. And were you guys surprised that it's being retabled with most of the censorship / surveillance that was included in that bill remove?
Barber?
No, I think that this government is just so far out to lunch, and they're pushing their agenda regardless. And I think the further they push, I think it's actually better, because it's waking more people up to this right now. However, like once some of this stuff's in place, it's like a dog being chained to a tree. I'll use that analogy again. And every day the government takes another link away from that chain, and the dog doesn't realize he's slowly losing more and more of his freedoms. And that's exactly where Canada is right now.
Pawlowski, you saw this before, right?
Well, I grew up in hell, quite often when people ask me how it was growing up behind the Iron Curtain. And the only thing that always, over and over, comes to my mind is hell. I don't think Canadians fully understand what we're talking about. If you have not lived under a totalitarian regime where the police can break your doors, break your arms, your legs, when they will take you in a stretcher to the courthouse, when the judge, in quote, will ask you what happened to you, and you say, I tripped, and that's good enough of an explanation, you don't really understand what is at stake here. I remember the tanks, I remember the machine guns, I remember the tens of thousands of people being arrested and many shot dead. I remember the martial law, the chaos, the craziness that you could go to prison if you were caught with a pamphlet that was not approved by the communist regime, and would land you 2 years of imprisonment. If you were caught listening to a radio that was not approved by the communist regime, by the if you refuse to follow the party line, and you were caught by a neighbor listening to something that you shouldn't be listening according to them, that's 5 years mandatory imprisonment. And of course, they would not just lock you up, they would torture you, just like they did to me. I mean, you know my story. I wrote the book, in prison, what they've done to me: metal cages, solitary confinement, concrete cells. I mean, stripped naked over and over again in front of men and women, threatened. 5 inmates, as you remember, testified that the guards were giving them incentives to murder me, and I was kidnapped, locked up in freezing conditions, psych ward. I mean, those are the things that I remember seeing growing up in Poland behind the Iron Curtain. And finally, when my parents said enough is enough, we just don't want to continue like this for the sake of our children. Me and my younger brother David, that was arrested with me, 12 times now, 13 times. He was arrested just because he's my brother. He didn't do any crime. Just because he's my brother, he was always picked up with me. My son, our oldest son, as you know, Nathaniel, testified when I was locked up like an animal and then released into a house arrest. They testified with my wife in front of the European Parliament. Well, for that crime, for letting the world know what's happening in Canada, how the persecution and prosecution of Christians and freedom-loving Canadians, law-abiding citizens, is happening. Well, he was already arrested 12 times. My own son has been arrested every time he crosses the border from USA to Canada. He gets detained. I hired lawyers. $50,000 later, he still gets detained. And we were told by the Border Patrol, we were told by the Customs and the police, Calgary police, that we don't know why. It's happening and we cannot fix it. All of those tactics, you have to understand, are happening for a purpose. And we have to ask ourselves those two questions, the two most important questions. Who is doing this to us? And why? I don't think Canadians are asking those critical questions. Who is doing this to us? Well, crooked, corrupted to the core politicians. And that's why I said during the last election, or why Canadians, or why Albertans, why you're voting for the same government that locked us up like animals? Why you're voting for the same government that destroyed our elderly, murdered our children, and is still jobbing? I live in the province of Alberta, and this government, I mean the conservative government, the good people, right? The best of the best, the cream of the political realm, is jobbing children 6 months young, and is recommending, even though they know the jobs are murdering people and destroying children, is recommending the jobs every 3 months. The same government just introduced digital ID in the province of Alberta. I mean, that's the government. So we have to ask ourselves, who is doing this to us? Well, all of them, all three governments. The Uni Party, the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the NDP. I call the Conservatives traitors. I call the Liberals Nazis, and of course the NDP are the communists. All three Uni Party is doing this to us. So why would you vote ever again? I mean, ever, for the people that did not march with us? Why would you vote for the people that did not bleed with us? We're not facing. I mean, think about it. I don't know, Chris, where you are residing right now. I mean, I know you're a trucker, so you probably have some.
Chris Barber, Saskatchewan.
So Tamara is Alberta, right?
Yes.
So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so we have the best government ever. Everyone is looking at Alberta and they say, hey, this is awesome. Danielle Smith is the best of the best. We wish she would be the prime minister. And I'm thinking, obviously, she's aware of what is happening to us, because that's how she got elected, right? She got elected because she promised to all of us, including to me, multiple times. I mean, that this government tried to bribe me over 10 times. And that's why I included that in a book. Well, we were told that freedom will come back and we will be set free. There's going to be a bill introduced that, the amnesty bill, and we were told that there's going to be a recompensation to what her government did to us. Of course, she got elected, never did anything. But let's put all of that history aside right now, right? We are 3 years later, 4 years later, years are passing. We are still under the gun. Well, Tamara Lich was just sentenced, and she is living in the province of Alberta, just like me. And I'm thinking to myself, if this government had any decency, if this government was actually good, like so many people think it is good, why there is no public media scrum? Why they're not talking about it? Why no one, zero, no politician is standing in defense of Chris and Tamara? Well, I'm the bad guy, right? Because I'm yelling. I call those nice officers that wanted to come and destroy our church and murder people. I call them Nazis. So Arthur Pawlowski is a bad guy, right? I'm not your typical Canadian. But Tamara Lich and Chris, you're nice people. You're nice Canadians. You are still from the era of politeness and being nice even to your enemies. Why they're not standing with you? Okay, I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad Polish immigrant. I'm yapping left and right. Okay, bad Arthur Pawlowski. But what about Tamara Lich? I mean, Grandma, where is Daniel Smith that is speaking in her behalf, saying, hey, what happened to this woman is just absolutely unbelievable. And my government is going to dig deep into finding out what really happened. I mean, she has that power. This government has that power. Don't believe the lie that they have no power. They have the majority. They can pass a bill. They can set us free. They can reverse everything. She can direct the Minister of Justice to go back and revisit the cases. They have the power. But why is this not happening? Well, again, remember those two important questions. Who is doing this to us? All of them. Now, another, even maybe more important question, why they are doing this to us. Because what we are witnessing right now is a repetition of history, copy-paste how to become a tyrant. For what purpose? No longer they're interested in your money. And I know this might sound heretical to some, but no longer they're interested in your money only. That was maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago. They were going after your funds, after your money. Now they want, are you ready? Everything. They want your properties. They want your children. They want you. This is a typical enslavement of humanity. That's why the middle class is being wiped out from Canada. This is the biggest attack on the middle class I have ever seen in history, not just behind the Iron Curtain, in history. They are after everything. Why? They want control, they want power, and they want to enslave humanity. That's what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with, okay, our lives are not going to be as rich as it was yesterday. Maybe I will not be able to golf anymore, or maybe I will not afford to go for a hockey as I would like to. We're no longer talking about this. This is an attack on the future of our country and the future of our children. So now the same two questions. Why they hate you, Chris? I'm talking to both Chris and Chris. Carver, it's so awesome to see you. It's good to see you. It's good. It's great that you're out. I mean, I understand a little bit, just a little bit, the hell you went through. So,
we've all been through things, so don't downplay what you've been through too. I mean, we've all had to deal with these stresses, and unfortunately, mine was inside a jail. But we've all gone through this. So,
yeah, Well, thank you. So, going back to those two the same questions, but let's look at why and who is opposing the globalists, who is opposing those that are telling you publicly you own nothing and you will be happy. And you got to remember that everything I say or I do or I see it from the perspective of growing up in that environment. We didn't own anything. And I'm telling you, I hope Canadians are listening, we were not happy. Ask any immigrant that grew up in hell with a totalitarian regime It's no fun. We were not happy. We were depressed. That's why Polish people were drinking so much. The famous jokes about Polish people and the vodka. Why do you think that came from? Because people were depressed. There was no hope. It was hopelessness. The government was doing whatever they wanted. 50,000 communists were ruling over 7 million Poles until the 37 million finally said enough is enough under the Solidarity movement, and it was all over for the communists. So now going back to our side, why do they hate you so much, Chris? Why? Why they went after the truckers? Why they went after the farmers? Why they went after the clergy? Because we have become dangerous to those people and their plans. We were not willing to bow. We were not willing to, comply. And also, which I think is even more dangerous, and that's why they decided to crush us, we were continuously preaching the truth. We just refused to shut up. I find it fascinating, and I don't want to degrade any role of the truckers in this whole craziness. But Chris, I'm talking to Chris Carbert right now. Is that not fascinating that the Canadian government decided to arrest a pastor before they've arrested the truckers? I find this fascinating because I ask myself a question over and over again: why they picked a pastor? I mean, I was no violent. What did I say in Quds? I told the Canadian people to stay, peaceful, no guns, no swords. What did I do? I just remind them about history. I told them, hey, stand up and fight for the rights of, for the future of our children. But why they picked the clergy? Why they picked the pastors, why they really wanted to shut down the churches? Because historically speaking, again, we're going back to history, the clergy and the churches, the Christians, were always the ones that were opposing tyrants and speaking against evil and fighting evil first with our words and then in a tangible way. I mean, if you know the history of United States of America, you know that there was a Black Robe regiment that was very famous when the pastors were leading armies against the Brits during that time. So the enemy knows history. Many Canadians maybe do not know history, but the enemy of freedom, enemy of family, enemy of everything that is decent and good knows history, and they just decided we have to eliminate those that are speaking and are having following, and that's exactly what happened. So, who is under attack? Everyone and anyone that they fear. And why? Because we refuse to shut up. We refuse to stop speaking. We expose them. In the Bible, it's very clear that says when you resist the devil. That's what that means. Simply, you don't collaborate with the devil. You don't make pacts with the devil. You don't make pacts of non-aggression with the devil. You don't take money from the devil. You resist the devil. That means you oppose whatever he's doing, and the Bible says that he will have to flee. Also, we have to understand that the moment the light comes, if you decide to lit the candle, if you decide that, and that's up to you, that's up to every American, that's up to every Canadian. If you decide to bring the light, it's over for the darkness. Full stop.
What?
There's no wrestling here. Darkness has no option, and that's what I'm trying to teach. That's why they got scared, because the second people realize how powerful we are, what kind of power collectively we have, it's over. It's over for the tyrants. I want to read something to you that really touched
one
my
quick
heart.
sec. Let's come back to that because I do want to get to Carbert, because I want to answer that question you asked him, and also want to get to Nico's question. We will certainly circle back to you, Pastor, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I know why they picked all of us, right? Is because the upper brass of the RCMP and the judicial system and the people in the judicial system don't think like us. They don't like how we think. They didn't like how much support there was throughout Canada, and they wanted to crush it. And their way of crushing it was by setting examples, saying, this is what we will do to you if you do this. We will crush you, right? So they were scared. I saw the people on the bridges and everything like that, on social media and such. And that's when I heard about, it was only supposed to be a slow roll to Coutts. It was never meant to be blocked off. It's just how it ended up. But I said, I have to do it. I had so much pride that everybody across this country were getting out and waving their flags. And yeah, it just, it was emotional. It still is emotional. And they were scared of that. They were scared that people were getting together because they need control. If they want to put their agenda in, they need control. And that's just what I think of it. They had to crush where they thought the strong people were.
And to kind of add on to that a little bit, Chris, and to add on to what Pastor Art was saying, they went after the nice big trucker. They went after the nice grandma, because if the nice people can go down, anybody can go down. So they're definitely making examples of them. Now, Carbert, I want to kind of get back to Nico's question, because I think it's important for your case, because Bill C-2 was about digital surveillance and getting into devices before they kind of changed it. And that a couple of your warrants were bad. The judge agreed, but they still used the information. They created situations to try and get you arrested and get your data. And they've opened up your phone and went through it. So you actually know firsthand what it's like when the government goes through your digital fingerprint and go through your stuff.
And
you also know how they use warrants. You touch on that?
Yeah. And like I was just saying, too, they also erased 21 gigabytes of my data, as we found out. I can't remember if it was the pre-trial or the trial, right? So, which I was screaming from the start that this is not how my phone looked, but it's frightening, right? There's more things that eventually are going to come out that we have learned since that, nobody knows. But they're doing a lot more things behind the scenes that we don't realize, and that they haven't been caught with yet. Well, maybe they have, but it's not really out there yet.
Yeah, you're hinting at some very important things that hopefully will come out after your appeal, and we'll get there. And I understand what you're talking about. And both parties were involved in this one too. Conservative government is trying to push some of the laws forward to go ahead and get into your phone digitally. They want a warrant to allow them to use Pegasus on your phones. Canada, just be aware of that. And that came out of an MP out of Alberta, conservative one. So all parties are involved in this. And this is why you don't see a lot of push, Nico, from the conservative government on Bill 2, 12 now, 8, and 9. You actually hear some talking points that are aligning with it, because even the Conservative Party were pushing for the use of Pegasus on Canadians. So Jason, we're going to go to you. Then we're going to jump back to Nico, and then we'll get to Barber if we have some more time, and then back to Arthur if you don't mind. Jason, we definitely are talking about Bill C-2 turning into Bill C-12, which was attacking your digital devices legally. What are your thoughts around that? Because there doesn't seem to be a lot of actual genuine pushback from all the parties.
Well, it's marching us into that technocratic control state, as I've stated before. But I do just want to thank Chris and Arthur Pawlowski. I didn't get a chance to thank you guys. What you guys did for us. Is that
Carbert and Barber and
Barber?
The Chris's.
I've already thanked Chris Barber. I just wanted to thank the Chris's and Arthur for what they did, and just in terms of this digital prison that they want to create for us. What Arthur Pawlowski was saying is that it's all of them, but this is my perspective, and it's just because I spend a lot of time reading these think tank documents and reading about these, like the open banking system, the digital health cards, the e-com stuff. And from my perspective is I think a lot of these politicians do get into office thinking that they can do something, but then they realize that the bureaucracy is actually controlled by a small number of very rich people, and they use their money and weight to control that.
100%.
and if you really pay attention to what like Pierre says, even what Danielle Smith says, these are all the same lines that are in these World Economic Forum documents. We got to keep in mind our politicians don't write our legislation, right? They source that out to neither does the public service. That's all sourced out to these think tank organizations, and then they give them they give the public service that information. Then that information is then just broken down for the politicians for their talking points. So I think what the problem is here is we have some very nefarious people that are implementing these these control systems, and they're pushing the boundaries and seeing how far, and like Arthur was saying, until we shine the light and say no. And that's what it comes down to, is we have to stop taking these sales pitches at face value. Like, you notice Pierre will always say it's for or even Danielle Smith with the digital ID. Oh, it's convenience. We're always trying to make it convenient for you, right? But what they're not telling us is that there's a small portion. This is a massive dragnet system where they're pulling all this information and they're going to store it in the same place. And just like they have in China, they're going to build profiles on people. And then they won't need programs like Pegasus to do some evasive, sort of tech grab of all your information, because they'll have it all filtering through these like Wi-Fi jumpers and things that ping back, and everything's just downloaded through your data. So if you cover all the fronts, right? If you cover your banking, you cover your digital ID, your health, your e-com, and there's this total agreement between the private sector and the public sector, then they're able to capture all this information without us even knowing. And like Pegasus has been used by the RCMP as early as the Harper government. And it was the Harper government that passed Bill C-51, which is like the most totalitarian spying bill in Canadian history, right? So this has been a slow like step. Like, they always give us our heroes, and what happened is these guys here became the new heroes, and the government, and not the government, but the powers to be, were like, they're not our heroes. They're not the heroes we picked. And that's why we're here where we are. And I hope some of that made sense. And that's my perspective.
It did, brother.
Yeah. And I hope people follow Wiretap CA on X, because he has been reading this stuff, providing information, calling everybody out on it. He's 100% accurate at this. I've been following it as well. And I do want to warn people that Pegasus is a no-click platform, which means you don't have to do anything on your side, and they're into your iPhone or your Android. And they've been doing this for a long time. What they're doing with this legislation is they're criminalizing some activity so that they can make it admissible in court, so they can use this technology to make it admissible in court. You can sue criminally and civilly. And absolutely, another thing, Nico, that we were talking about was Bill C-9, which where they're trying to criminalize feelings or hurt feelings or hate feelings and those kind of things, because what we're doing is not illegal. So they need to bring in some more things to make things illegal. And Arthur knows all about this all too easy, or all too well. And this is how they do that slippery slope and get you all the way through. So hopefully those are some of the answers you were looking for, Nico, because I think Chris Carver knows this well. He's been through appeals. He's been through challenges of warrants. He's been through warrants that were bad, but they still kept the information. 21 gigs missing, and there's a lot more to his story. And I'm kind of worried that Jason is right about some of this stuff. There's just a small group of really powerful, rich people who's really influencing all of our governments, and they might be unwilling participants or willing participants. We don't know at this stage.
And there's a good reason why they're passing it through 5 different bills, not just one big fuck you, big brother bill. Bill C2, C8, C9, C12, Bill C63. And, this is where my mind's at, because I talk about the problems all the time, and a lot of people out there talk about the problem. It's pretty obvious that Canada's headed down a very dark path right now. And just like Arthur, I study history. The book's behind me, half of it's history. This is what I study, and I agree with you, Pastor, that it's repeating itself once again, and the Marxist game plan is always to first disconnect you from God and replace God by government. This is always the first step. We're seeing it happen in Canada. It's been happening at least in the Quebec province since the 70s. But I want to find solutions. I want to find ways that we can stand up to this. And it looks like, I don't know for Chris Barber, I don't know for Jason Stockton, but it seems that a lot of the people in the freedom movement, myself included, are Christian. And this is where that
Amen.
strength, that courage comes from. And I believe personally as a Christian that this is the only way Canada is going to fight what's happening, is by standing for something that is greater than ourselves, others and God. I got a feeling I know where Arthur stands on this, but the question that I have for the rest of the panel is, do you guys think Christianity is the way out of the mess in which we find ourselves right now?
I personally think it's the only way.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Barber first, and then we'll go up the chain here. And Barber, when you do your podcast and you get into a lot more guests, it's hard to stick to an hour. So thanks a lot for sticking around with us.
Well, I did have Tamara clarify that. So it is House Arrest -18. That is the YouTube channel. And then, of course, we'll be streaming it out. The Freedom Convoy Facebook page, Freedom Convoy 2022 is one of the ones that's going to host it, as well as my Big Red official account on Facebook. And I'll put it to my Big Red on TikTok and Instagram and that. When it comes to Christianity in this country, yes, I was going to mention that one of the conditions that I have too is I'm allowed to leave here a half hour before church tomorrow morning and drive to my hometown of South Current to attend church. So I think the government has removed God out of just about every aspect of Canadians' life, and I think it's been the slow detriment to society ever since. We have no values, we have no foundation, we are a lost society that's looking for something. And you know, the Ten Commandments put it quite well, and if people lived their life, you know, according to that, could you imagine where we would be right now?
I can.
100%. Yeah, and church is very important. And yeah, and the Ten Commandments is something that we share at our table every single day. So, Pastor Arthur, back to you. Let's go ahead and get that reading from you. But before you do that, can you give us, "Get out, Nazis, get out"? Can you give us one of those?
Well, you know, I've heard, I just got back from the United States, and some people really try to mimic that. And I tell them, please stop. You're butchering my accent. Obviously, you're not capable of doing that because it requires a Polish immigrant. And Arthur Pawlowski, I call it the head-on collision, Arthur Pawlowski style. So when those little minions of Satan came, because they were not law enforcement agents, they were the Gestapo of today. What Gestapo even means? Well, it simply means political police. So what we are dealing with, what all the Chris's dealt with, Tamara, and all the freedom movement in the past 5 years, we were not really dealing with police. We were dealing with Gestapo, and those people willing to do this to us, and they did it for political reasons. They were not following Criminal Code of Canada. They were not following Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Constitution, you name it. They were not following the Bill of Rights. They were following the political orders. That's why I've called them Gestapo, political police. Well, it goes like this. Get out, you Nazis. That's how you do it properly. And then you have to say in the end, unbelievable. That's how you do it properly. But you know, here is the thing. You were talking about solution. And I agree, of course, with you 100%. In the Bible, it says, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is a liberty, there is freedom. So if you are looking for freedom, if you're looking for prosperity, if you're looking for healing, you have to bring God of prosperity back to your country, God of liberty back into your country. Because what Canadians did for a very long time, they kicked God out of the public square, out of educational system, which is not educating anymore, it's indoctrinating, kicked God out from the court system. I find it fascinating that to this day, I go to court and I am to testify, and they ask me if I'm willing to swear on the Bible. And I look at them, it's like, you people hate the Bible, you hate God, you hate righteousness, and you're asking me to swear on the Bible that you hate and you break every single day in the name of the Lord, in the name of the law. So, going back to the solution, The moment you bring the light, the moment you bring God back into this country, into society, into your family, it's over. It's over for the enemy. The moment God shows up, it's over for the devil. So you may say to yourself, and I hear this quite often, what can I do? I'm just a little guy. I have no money. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not Donald Trump. I don't have political power. What one man can do? I want to just read this to you for an encouragement, because it encouraged me, um, quite in a quite profound way. So here it goes, and this is a quote from Edward Everett Hale, and here's what he said: "I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something." And I think in the end of the day, that's what this whole thing boils into. Every one of us can do something. The little I could do without political power and without billions of dollars, I could keep the church's doors open, and I did. I could preach and educate people about my experience growing up in hell. I could sing when Canadian government declared that singing is prohibited by law. I asked our worshippers in the church to sing extra songs, and we were singing double. When the Canadian government told us not to meet, I told the people we're going to meet every day, and we did 6-7 times a week. We were meeting. When the government told us you cannot have Lord's Supper, well, I said to the people, now every time we meet, we're going to have Lord's Supper. Normally we had once a week. Now we're going to have it every single day. And as you remember, I live streamed the whole thing because I wanted those little minions of Satan, those uncircumcised Philistines, to understand that we, the church, we, the Christians, refuse to bow before the modern day Hamans of 21st century. We refuse to bow before the Nebuchadnezzars of today, his golden idol. So if everyone, and I'm just talking to the good. I understand they're the good, the bad, and the ugly, but I'm talking to the good people. If you consider yourself a decent human being, you can do something that is good. You can start with supporting us. It can start with speaking about the cases, letting your neighbors know that they are still Canadians, prosecuted and persecuted, not for anything evil, but for doing good, that they are Canadians that are being hunted down by a cruel, evil, heartless bureaucracy that hates what's good, and the people deserve to know. And that's what I did, and that's what I do in the United States. Jason, as you know, I've met with the governor. I was invited to the Capitol, and that's not the first time. I have been invited to many of those places, and it's such a refreshing thing when I travel and I just preach 2 hour sermon at the courthouse. I was invited by district attorney. Can you imagine? Art Pawlowski. Usually I go to court in handcuffs or shackles or as accused. Now I'm in the court. You can see the pictures on my Facebook page, and I was invited to speak and sit at the judge's seat. I was greatly honored by district attorney and the sheriff, which sheriff in American counties is the most powerful man. Sheriff is more powerful than the governor. Incredible. There were state representatives listening, and they were buying my book over there. And some people are asking where you can get the book. Well, you can get it on Amazon.ca, Amazon.com. Lions do not bow. It's so surreal, but Americans were going the same way as Canadians, and that's where I'm getting at. North America, America as a whole, Canada and United States, we were all going left for decades. However, since Donald Trump and some other powerful people, because that's not the only person that is pushing this around, there are other great, amazing people. Many of them I know, and many of those people in Trump's administration I know personally. I was able to travel with them. So they are born again, fired up Christians, and they are pushing their nation towards right. Slowly but surely, America is moving right, and I see it. I'm there every month, and I'm in Washington D.C. I'm at the state capitol. I'm everywhere. I just got invited to preach at the state capitol in Washington D.C. next year. So I see the movement happening. I see people turning back to God. However, Canadians are moving opposite direction, and that's what worries me. The Canadians are choosing the left, and they're pushing more and more and more to the left, and that is very concerning because you were asking about solution. The only way we can fix this, we cannot fix this politically. Even though I'm involved in politics, I'm a leader of a political party. I will run in the next provincial election, but I will run for one purpose: to educate people through different means and ways. Because I have very little faith in Albertans that they're going to choose good people as their leaders. They want crooks, they want liars, they want flip flopping. I call them the whores of Babylon that will go to bed with any monkey that is willing to vote. So, however, I'll still do it, I'll still run because I believe in educating people through the process. So the solution is very simple. We can't fix this politically at this moment. We have to keep giving people the truth. And the truth, the Bible says, will set them free. So we have to go educate, speak, organize rallies, organize protests, or whatever you want to call it, town hall meetings. Keep doing what we're doing until one day when the Canadians are going to hurt a little bit more. And we're getting there. Then they will look for solutions. They will look and they will cry out and will say, why is this happening to us? And they will look up, because right now they're not looking up. They have chosen few main politicians that they think they are their saviors. So Danielle Smith is the savior of Alberta, even though everything she does is a disaster. Almost everything. Few things she did good, but most of it. And then they look at the Pierre Poilievre, the very man that yelled at the prime minister at the time, son of the Castro, saying, the whole world is vaccinated. Where are the vaccines for the Canadians? Remember, that's the man. That's the guy that wanted to jab children, elderly, every person in the country. That's the man. I'm talking about the same man that was wearing a muzzle like a proper dog and wanted to jab every human being on the planet. So those people are not your heroes. If they did not march with Chris Carbert or with Jason or with myself or Chris, if they were not marching with us, they do not qualify, because the character of a man was exposed through the conflict, through the test, if you will. If they were not willing to pay the price at that time, if they were not willing to do anything for us, I'm telling you, when there is a lot more at stake, if that man becomes the prime minister, he will have a lot more at stake. And I'm telling you, they will betray you because they're not qualified. They don't have the character of someone that is willing to pay the price for somebody else. They're doing this for their own reasons, for their own purposes. So the solution: bring God back, keep doing what you're doing, do not quit, do not be afraid. I just had to deal with Homeland Security because apparently there was credible threat and if someone wanted to assassinate me. I had more sheriffs and more police around me than I have ever seen, except our Christmas celebration in Calgary when we had 120 cops, anti-terrorists, 54 police cars, and chief of police, and more cops than the Smurf village in our church service. But we must start doing what a lot of Americans are doing. We have to start electing good people. Good people. There will never be perfect people. There's no such a thing as a perfect man. If you have red blood like me, you're a sinner. You need a savior. You're a messed up like everybody else, and you need Jesus. Full
There's
stop.
only one perfect man.
There's only one perfect man. That's God, man Himself, Jesus Christ. So we have to start electing people that were not involved in this genocide. Number one, never again vote for the party that did this to you, either NDP, conservative, or so-called conservative. I can't even say it with a straight face, or the liberals. Also, you have to bring God back. Start praying. Start doing good. Stop the nonsense. Stop drinking and drugs or whatever you're doing. Stop doing all of that stuff. Invite God back to whatever you're doing, back to your family, back to your society, back to the public square. Do not be afraid. Americans are not afraid to talk about God. They do it publicly. They're not ashamed of Jesus. If they're Christians, they're not ashamed. Canadian Christians, in big part, not everyone, but in big part, they are, to me, at least, as a pastor, I'm holy on Sunday and I'm the devil on Monday. They are like schizophrenic Christians. They act completely different in the church, and they act completely different during the week. It's like, I don't want to talk about Jesus to my coworkers. Why not? I mean, I thought he's everything to you, right? He's the Alpha and Omega. He's the beginning and the end. He's life itself. So you should talk about those things. So we have to stop being politically correct, because what got us into this place in the first place is the craziness of political correctness. I don't want to offend anyone. I don't care about your feelings, people. I care about the future for my children. And if your feelings are offended because I fight for the future of my children, then too bad. I don't care. We should not be catering to people's feelings in a time of war. And my friends, we have to realize something. We are in a time of war. They waged war against the Canadian people. If I was your king, if let's say tomorrow I'm elected the king of this country, many of those politicians would be charged with treason, and Nuremberg number 2 would be a goal.
Fantastic. Maybe it'll be Lethbridge number 1, Pastor. Chris, I want to come to you, Carbert, because what the question was, is Christ the solution? And I know that you had the longest running Bible study in detention. And some of the first conversations I had with you were around faith, family, and future. In fact, most of them, if not all of them, were around faith, family, and future. I know this is important to you. Do you think it's part of the solution, as Pastor laid out there?
God is always part of the solution. I mean, our society is based off of Christian values, and that is what everybody forgets about, right? Is that we are where we are because of Christ and what he's done for the world. Really, he is the only solution, right? Without God, the devil's going to get a stronger hold, and we're just going to keep going down this slippery slope that we're going down. And unfortunately, Western society is falling away from God, and however, it is growing in other societies, which is good. But I hope it comes back to Western culture, because without our old Western culture, I guess you could say, the world's in trouble, and we are in trouble right now. I can't believe how much worse it is since I went to jail. When I came out, I was blown away with how much worse it is right now. But I just wanted to. Arthur talked about swearing on the Bible, and when I was in court, I refused to swear on the Bible, and the reason is I just wanted to read. I had the Bible underneath my computer, actually. So in James chapter 5, verse 12, I'm just going to read it to you quickly. Above all, my brothers and sisters, do not swear, not by heaven or by earth or by anything else. All you need to say is a simple yes or no. Otherwise, you will be condemned. So that verse there, whether I'm reading it wrong or not, told me I cannot swear on the Bible. So I did not swear on the Bible.
I was in court when you actually said that, and
I said it openly in court because I knew a lot of my supporters were Christian, and I wanted them to know why I wasn't swearing on the Bible. And actually, a lot of them did end up writing me saying, I had never looked at that verse like that, and now I see it. So it also helped other people see it too. So that's good.
That it was a powerful moment there, Chris, during that trial, because you stood your ground on that one, and you were showing exactly your belief and your interpretation, and you stood on that principle. Jason, are you seeing a pattern here when you're doing your work, that when people stand up and they fight and they're brave and have courage, there's also a lot of faith behind them as well?
Yeah. I'm not, your regular Christian. I was raised Catholic. But I do know I still love you. I know in the last decade, I've really reconnected back with my faith. I used to be a pretty big partier, and I wanted to change my life. So I brought that. I brought my childhood practices back into my life, and this was probably around 2014 that I did it. And I could tell you without a doubt, it has given me balance. It's giving me strength. And I get accused a lot by people that I might be dividing people with some of the things that I say, but my perspective is that if we're going to challenge the other side to challenge their own opinions, we have to be able to challenge our own. And I know the only person I have to answer to at the end of the day is God himself. So that's the only person I need to answer to. So I do know that I'm seeing a pattern that a lot of these more powerful people that have stood up for us, they carry God in their heart. And it's given me the courage to start showing my face. I've remained anonymous for a long time on the platforms, but now I'm starting to put myself out there, and I attribute that to God himself, so that I could speak my truth. And and the more people that do this, the less likely they're going to be able to like pin Chris with house arrests, and the other Chris with jail time, and Arthur with arrests. Because if there's more of us that show our face, and the more of us that stand up without fear, and the Bible says that, right? I think is that not the most repeated thing, is fear nothing. So
Fear only the Lord.
Yeah. So that's kind of my place on that. So, yeah.
Nico, now one of the things we talk about a lot is Christianity, conservatism, and all that kind of stuff. And the solution, as Pastor Arthur said, is Canadians need to come out, be proud, share it, and don't hide behind anything. Be open about your Christianity. How are you feeling about this panel right now? And many, there's 2,500 and so watching right now are likely feeling the same way.
I'm sorry, Chris Barber, for this one, but I fucking love it. You said not to swear. I will never swear on the Bible, but I absolutely love this. I'm a newborn Christian. I wasn't raised in the church whatsoever. I found God at the bottom of a pit during COVID, alone in the woods, and I traveled the U.S. for 3 years. 30 states later, I've been everywhere in the U.S. that was worth going to, and I found God. So to me, He's everything. That is what drives my life. My faith is my courage. My courage is my faith. I'm still not sure. But yes, Jason, I'm so happy that I got to bring this up, because I always try to bring it up in a conversation where it makes sense. And it made sense here. So I know we're about done. We're 4 minutes out. I would like Pastor Arthur to finish us off with a prayer, if that works for you guys. I don't know if you guys, before he does, if any of you have closing statements, something they want to do. If
let's
you
do the
have
closing
a
statements
podcast,
and the prayer. Yeah, let's do that.
Exactly. Yep, let's
go, Barber.
Well, guys, I just thank you for the opportunity tonight. It was good to chat with everybody, and hopefully we can do this again. Like I said before, I appreciate all the support out there. There's a long road ahead of all of us, so keep watching all the stories and keep paying attention to all the people that are still going through this political persecution, because there's, for a lot of us, it's real.
Amen.
Well, if there's anybody that can tackle a long road, Chris, it's going to be you for sure. You and Big Red can do that, no problem. Carbert?
Monday.
Yeah, no. Thanks for having me. I know I've been quite quiet since I got out, and that's intentional. But I can guarantee you, it's not going to stay like that. So, but thanks for having me.
I'm looking forward to it, especially after the appeals, Chris. I know some of the things you know, and I can't wait. I'm praying for you every single day, and we're going to get through this, no problem. 2026 might be a big year for Canadians in justice. Jason, you got some last words?
I just want to thank the guys for what they did, and putting their necks out there on the chopping block for us. And, you guys take a lot of flack from people that, don't know much about anything, and they just live in this very secure world, and they don't understand the detriment and the pain that's going to be coming our way if we don't wake up. And, I'm grateful for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Nico?
I'm just humbled by having all you guys here. So again, thank you.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I feel very honored and privileged to be part of this panel and this team and everybody that's working hard on this. And it takes a lot of strong men to stand up to fix the bad times. And I think this is coming together. So, Pastor Art, without further ado, you got a prayer for us?
Before I pray, I want to quote Winston Churchill, and he said, "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give." And I think that's how we are to live our lives. What I can do, and every one of us can do something. And with God, I said this thousands of times, and I'm going to say it until the day I die, that with God we have already won. The enemy just doesn't know it yet. And the title of my book is intentional because we started orphanages in Africa and medical clinics and churches, and I was privileged to observe lions behaving and walking. And I'm telling you, there's nothing like a lion. A lion knows who he is. You don't have to tell the lion, he knows. And we are, as Christians, we are called to be followers of the lion from the tribe of Judah. And lions do not bow to hyenas, and we do not bow before the hyenas and wicked, evil minions of Satan. So, Father God, I thank you for everyone that is watching this, for the panel. Bless them, Father God, keep them and protect them. I pray, Father God, that you would give us all a courage and boldness like we never had before. Fire our souls, our spirits, and let us be your trumpet of the truth, Father God. The Bible says that the truth shall set the captives free. And that's what the whole thing has always been all about, the truth. They want to silence us. They are afraid of us. And the Bible says over 365 times, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. And Father God, I bless my friends here with that, with courage and boldness and the Holy Spirit of the power of the mighty, living, only God of the universe. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Amen.
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 Thanks, guys.
On that note, everybody, absolutely. Thank you very much, Pastor. And on that note, everybody have yourself a wonderful evening. We love you all very much. Make sure you share and subscribe and come back next week. Have yourself
Thanks,
a
guys.
wonderful weekend.
Nice meeting you all.
And gentlemen, stick around. We'll have a quick chat at the end of this. But to the audience, thank you for everything and God bless.